Hi, beautiful human. I'm Zach. That's Dan. And today we welcome really one of the greatest lyricists to ever do it. She's sold over 40 million records. She's a trailblazer. Say hello to Sarah McLachlan.
Hey.
Hi.
This is great. This is cool. It's also cool that you have a new album.
Yeah, well, especially after 11 years. I had no idea it had been so long until someone actually said that. I'm like, that seems crazy. But now that I think about it, yeah, it's been a hot minute since I put out a record.
What is okay, so much changes in 11 years.
Yeah.
Like the most changes.
Yeah, well, I had two teenagers, young teenagers 11 years ago, and I became a full-on dance mom. I was also chairing both the board of my music schools and my foundation board and being the principal fundraiser for many years for those things. So I was wearing a lot of hats besides continually playing gigs and I guess on the occasion writing songs. It did kind of take a back seat for a while.
Yeah, like what is writing music during those moments in life? What does it mean to you? And how does it change from what it meant before?
It's kind of like it's stepping out of reality and into another realm. But for me, it's like I think some of the biggest comforts I have in life are sitting at the piano and just playing for the sake of playing with abandon. And it's often in those moments when I'm calm. It's usually like early in the morning before everybody else gets up, where my mind is less noisy. That's where songs start.
Has it been like that from the very beginning?
Kind of, yeah. I think my process has really not changed very much. I think the reason it takes me so long to write and to finish songs is because my brain is so noisy and I have a lot going on and I'm very easily distracted. So the way that I need to get things done is A, have a hard deadline and and B, have no distraction. And having two teenage daughters and being a fundraiser and helping run these schools it continues to be challenging. I just dropped off my baby, my youngest, at LMU.
Congrats.
Yeah.
That's a big deal.
Yeah, I'm trying not to,
think about
get
it.
Teary right now. Yeah. Yeah, I've got one more evening with her tonight, and then tomorrow I get on a plane and go home, and that's the end of a chapter and the beginning of something new and beautiful for her. And a death for me, kind of. As a parent, it's exactly what you want. You want to push them out of the nest and know they're going to be okay. And we had this beautiful dinner last night with her roommate that she met online. It's like dating, how they connect.
That's interesting.
And they're in love with each other. And I watched them meet and hug and her friend said, I can't believe you're actually real. I'm so happy we have each other. And the mother and I looked at each other and went, check, okay, this is good. This is so good. They're going to be fine.
What is it like making music now that you have kids? Because they come through on this album.
In a really beautiful way, both literally and figuratively. Yeah, I mean, I would say on one hand, it slowed the process down because they are a massive and beautiful distraction, but my capacity and understanding of what love is has been utterly blown open by having children. I had no idea how much one's heart can expand and contract, and when you have kids, it's just this boundless love that you have. And I think that has allowed me to be way more empathetic as a human and way more understanding and have a more worldly view and have a sense of connection to, nearly half of the world, all of the world, any parent, it's an instant connector. But, full circle too, both my daughters ended up singing on this record with me on One in a Long Line. And to me, that is just like, they don't sing. They both have beautiful voices. But I think because mom's a singer, it's something they've always just kind of shied away from. But they can really sing. And so to have them on the record and to have, my daughters who I'm thinking and worrying about the future for women. And I'm thinking, okay, I need to raise these girls up strong and self-assured and full of self-worth. And they're both fierce and strong and independent. So I'm really happy and proud for them. And to have them singing on this song was just, like I said, beautiful full circle.
It's obviously a conscious decision as you're raising your kids, right? To instill all these values in them. But when you look back at your own life, who instilled them in you? Or were they found along the way?
I would say they were kind of found along the way. I say my mother is a very strong influence, but mostly because of the way she parented, in the sense of, this is how I don't want to parent.
A cautionary tale.
A cautionary tale. Yeah. This is how I don't want to be. And the irony of that is, you can fight it all you want, but often you end up the same words come spewing out of your mouth that your mother said to you, and you'd say, I will never, ever utter these words to my child. And yet there they are out in the world, and you can't shove them back in.
By the way, I experienced that in my own life, where like I see my parents do things and I clock it as something to not do.
Yeah.
And then I find myself doing it, and literally I sound like my dad sometimes. And it's a double whammy.
Well, we're a product of our environments, and those patterns are really hard to break sometimes. And, like I said, you can acknowledge them after the fact and try and continue to make changes. But it's a slow path to climb out from underneath those things sometimes.
So there is a record about your mom, The Last to Go, on this album.
Yeah.
Is that a song that comes early in the morning? And is it easy to write?
It kind of became about my mom. It didn't start out about my mom. It actually started out, speaking of patterns, it started out kind of about me and getting out of a very unhealthy relationship and recognizing all the concessions that I've continued to make as a woman in relationships to keep the peace, to keep things running smoothly, disregarding my own feelings and my own self-worth. And then what happened as I was writing the song about me is, there's another voice in here. And it was the voice of my mother and my thoughts and feelings about my mother and all she had given up to make a life for me. Like, she was an intellectual. She was a very smart woman. She dropped out of university, put my dad through his PhD, and then was just called a housewife, and there was sort of devalued. And she also had that real chip on her shoulder about that, and was very frustrated with the way her life had turned out and extremely angry at the limitations society had placed on her and how she felt really just stuck. So it kind of became about her. Her voice came in there as well, and also allowed me to remind myself of the empathy there, of recognizing her not just as someone who was there to serve me as a mother and didn't serve me in the way that I needed her to, but as a human who was suffering and struggling with her own issues.
When do you realize that?
I think I first came to terms with that, or began to come to terms with that when I was around 24. We were having a really real conversation about how I was brought up and some of the stuff that went on in our household. And, she looked at me and she said, I was cruel to you on purpose. And I said, why? She goes, well, your dad was so mean to your brothers. I figured I had to even the score a little bit and make things even. And it was not an apology. It was not an admission of guilt. It was simply a statement of fact.
An acknowledgement?
Yeah. And I was like, well, that makes a lot of my life really clearer. Thank you for telling me that. And I think I was kind of in shock at hearing that, because it's how I felt. Like, I always felt like, why are you so cold and so angry and mean to me all the time? And that was her kind of reasoning. But it just allowed me to, after I got over the shock of it, it was like, that's the amount of tools that she had. Like, she didn't have the capacity to deal with her feelings any more than she could, right? She was brought up, like, both her mother and father were abusive, and she was treated horribly. She moved every year for years. So she had no real connection with people. She didn't trust people, and didn't really have much self-worth. So she was angry and resentful. And I just saw her for who she was, for this person who was kind of suffering and struggling under the weight of this thing she couldn't climb out from. And it just kind of, this flood of empathy happened where I'm like, oh, you are living with so much disappointment and so much anger, and that has nothing to do with me. And it was kind of freeing.
Does that change the way you build a relationship with your daughters?
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think, again, back to the irony of trying to be different than your parents. Like, I was very different than my mother in many ways, but my relationship with my firstborn daughter was really challenged because we're both very stubborn and very similar in a lot of ways. And I saw this, I guess, this fragility in her and this seeming disinterest to engage with anything difficult. And I'm looking at her going, the world out there is rough and scary, and you need to toughen up a little bit. And so I pushed her really hard, and instead of building resilience in her, I just built this brick wall where I'm like, Mom is making me feel bad about myself. And we've had many conversations about this, and she's like, please feel free to talk about all this, by the way, because it's one thing to talk about your own feelings, but quite something different to bring other people's intimate issues into a public forum. But she was really angry at me and felt unloved. And yet I was flooding her, I thought, all the time with these positive affirmations, and you can do this, and you're strong, and you're solid, and you got this. And she didn't feel like she had any of it. And I was just making her feel worse. So this is a long story to get around to.
This is so real, though.
It is.
I've dealt with it with my sister. I've dealt with it with my partner. It's very real. Like, if you give people the wrong sort, like, there's a line between encouragement and support and love and, like, the right amount of, like, reassurance and safety net.
Yep.
And, like, encouragement and almost...
And there's this crippling on the other side.
100%. But, like, you can encourage somebody so much so that it is crippling.
Yeah.
Because then they're expected to do these things.
And therein lies the rub. You're absolutely right. And what we didn't understand is that she had a ton of anxiety that was not diagnosed. I don't have anxiety, so I didn't recognize it, nor did I have... She didn't have the language to articulate it. It's just this brick wall came up, and there was obstinance and rage because it was complete overwhelm for her. And I looked at that and went, you're going to have to suck it up and figure this out, which is so unempathetic and so much like my mother. Ugh. But so, figuring all this stuff out in counseling, God love family systems counseling, is just amazing. And peeling back all those layers and recognizing that, okay, just because I'm saying this thing, she's not hearing it. So you have to figure out a different way to communicate. And, we got to an amazing place after a bunch of months of counseling, and it just changed the way we see each other and the way we communicate, and really stripped away a lot of those unhealthy patterns.
And how much of that ends up bringing us gravity?
Oh, a lot. I mean, and that song it's sort of about the middle of that path when we're, as a parent, there's this plea to your child of like, you need to understand that I love you and I'm here for you no matter what. You can keep pushing and pushing and pushing, and I can see that you want to see where the cracks are. You want to see how far you can go until I leave. I'm not leaving. But there's sort of there's an exhaustion in that place too of like, why is this so hard? I love you so much. I want to be here for you. I want you to feel safe with me. So how do we do this? So it's just sort of this impassioned plea to her to recognize that I'm here for her. And that was counseling for us, just being really, really vulnerable, and me having to eat a ton of humble pie about, I'm a really good parent, because one of my kids is really easy. And so I think I'm a great parent. And then with my firstborn, I'm like, why am I such a shitty parent? What is wrong with me?
But it is hard. Like you also probably a part of all this is you transport yourself back to when you were her age.
You try to.
I mean, think about, but try to compare your early 20s and like late teens to what you're.
Oh, I was raised by wolves. Like, I raised myself. We were left to our own resources all day, every day. I'm resourceful. I'm really self-reliant because I had to pick myself up all the time. I didn't call anybody when shit went wrong. I just figured it out and kept going forward. People will say, I wish I had my mom. I wish I could call my mom when I'm upset. And I'm like, oh, that would not be my first call. Like, she'd just make things worse. She'd be looking at me and going, what did you do? Not helpful.
But during that time,
and then social media, and then we cannot, ignore the elephant in the room. I'm a famous person, and when you look at me from a child's perspective, it's like I have this crazy job where it's like everybody's fawning over me, and I'm super successful, and it seems really easy. I sing, and I get paid all this money. So from her perspective, she's looking at this and goes, how can I compare to that? I'm a failure from the beginning. I'll never be that successful. And I never understood that dynamic at all because I tried to normalize everything as much as I possibly could and create a really normal environment for her. Yet Yeah, we went to Hawaii every year. And yes, she went to a private school with a bunch of rich kids who got given cars when they were 16. She did not. I was one of those asshole parents who was like waiting till she was almost 14 to give her a cell phone, because I knew back then, I knew how bad social media was. I knew what addiction this device could be. And I just didn't want her anywhere near it.
Knowing what the addiction of social media is, right? Not even could be at this point is.
Yeah.
How does that affect how you're going to promote this music?
Well, it is the way of the world, right? So you're dancing with the devil. It is the way to get your music out there. And there are so many different platforms. And I mean, I'm just honestly still learning about all this. My youngest, of course, is on TikTok, and she says, "You've got to do TikToks, Mom." And I'm like, okay, can you explain to me how that would work? I don't even understand this. And then I look at all the different platforms and like, this is exhausting. So, there's people who do that, and I begrudgingly provide content, the bare minimum, and they are always asking for more, and I put it on. But, it's part of this world that I've chosen to be in. I want my music, which I am so proud of and love so much, to be out there. And so it's like walking this fine line to, continue to be integral to myself and my own privacy, and also recognize that people want to know what's going on. And I am also, as you can see probably by now, kind of an open book. I'll talk about pretty much anything. So I have to be a little cautious sometimes. I forget I'm actually in public sometimes, and other people will be hearing the conversation.
I totally get that.
Yeah, I'm sure you do.
Very similar, very similar. But it is wild. Like, you've definitely never promoted an album this way.
I have not
ever before in your career.
No,
and you've
but
had
this
many
is just
albums.
like a talk show. Yeah. Right? This is just the new
for
format.
40 minutes.
Yeah, exactly. Which is actually amazing. It's like way more screen time than. I will also say that whenever I did a talk show in the past, I was a musical guest and I never got couch time. So thank you.
The couch is yours.
Thank you. It's quite lovely.
It's not bad, right?
I really like this pillow too.
I was like, you've done so many talk shows.
Well, it's 37 years I've been doing this, so yeah, there's been a few of them.
Oh my God. It's wild. Your career's really, it's like hard to put into work. Well,
it's kind of amazing that I still get to do this. So, after 37 years, I'm still in a position where, I can go play shows and people want to come hear my music. That's a luxury.
But does the creation process, it has to have a different weight, right? Like when you were creating before, even if we go back to, okay, let's go back to Fumbling Towards Ecstasy. You lock yourself in the woods, right?
Yeah, pre-children.
Yes,
by the way. Yeah.
but to get this album, you're in like a dry spell. It is like almost a life or death situation because you signed to a record label. You need to give them something.
It's true. I will say though, I was extremely lucky. I got signed to an independent label when I was 19, and they kind of gave me carte blanche. They said, "Let's see what you come up with," and I had no idea what an anomaly this was and how unusual it was to be given all that creative freedom. And then when I signed to Arista after the first record, it was a major label, but I was licensed and distributed by them. I was still on network records. So I kind of maintained that creative control right from day one. So, yes, I was expected to put out a record, but there was no actual deadline. It wasn't really a hard deadline. I mean, it was, okay, in the next year, you really need to finish this. But I think now in hindsight, it might have actually been better if I did have a harder deadline because I work really well in those constraints.
But are the stakes different between the release and writing and creation of that album compared to what we're dealing with now?
Yeah, I think I have way less to prove now.
Totally.
I think that was my third record, and in some ways a real defining moment for me because it was the first time I was single in my adult life. I was unencumbered, and yes, I just went into the woods and did nothing but make music 24/7 for 6 months. And that was euphoric and freeing and all-encompassing. And when I make records now, it is punctuated by, the reality of I have all these other things that I've built for myself and around myself, my children, my music schools, that require a lot of attention and, emotional investment, yes. So, one only has so much bandwidth. So for me, at the end of the day, music often took a back seat. But so yes, 11 years. I took a while. You know, some of these songs are 13 years old.
Wow.
Some of them were written in the last 6 months. But that's, you know, I've never been prolific, and I wanted to have a solid body of work before I went into the studio to make a record. That being said, I think I was so jazzed and inspired by, you know, that process of discovery in the studio. I'm way more interested now in getting back in and continuing to do that work. Like, I can't wait to do another record.
Better Broken has sparked that in you.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it's like this rekindling of this, you know, this old flame of like, oh my God, I forgot how good it feels to be creative in that way and to be collaborative in that way.
is there something that you learn while making Fumbling Towards Ecstasy that you carry with you in the albums that would follow? Because you would have career-defining songs. I mean, yes, Fumbling Towards Ecstasy was massive, but like Angel comes after that, right? Like there's a, Will You Remember Me comes after that. That was that like on just a B-side thing that was like thrown together?
Was that before or after Fumbling? I mean, my chronological order of things is terrible, but I feel like it's before.
Well, 96 is when, at least that's, I'm going based on like the years that are on the streaming services.
Okay.
Because they can also be total bull squash.
I will remember you was out in 95.
95. And when did Fumbling Towards Ecstasy come?
94, you're right. So when was Brothers McMullen released? Because that was the movie that it was on.
That was released, let's get the exact day here. January of 1995 at the film festival, and then released August 11th, 1995.
Okay, so you're right. See, yeah.
You got a lot of stuff to like keep organized.
I don't.
And it stresses me
I don't remember
out.
these things. I'm sorry. You asked me, well, what year was that? And the people talk about, okay, this record. I'm like, okay, remind me the songs on this record. They don't necessarily come to mind.
But there is something special that like, one, you know, we did talk about it this morning, and it's something that we've connected the dots between artists that are considered legends and some of the artists today. Like, the breathing room of creation is crazy. Like, even the idea to have so many albums to figure it out, even before Fumbling Towards Ecstasy, right? You have 2 albums previous to that.
Yeah.
Like, in this day and age, if you don't figure it out by album 1, you really don't get a 2.
It's true. You don't get a second chance. But that's how different it was back then. I mean, we didn't have any of these platforms, and I was also a small indie artist, so I went and played to 50 people in every bar across Canada.
Literally.
And then I came back 6 months later and played to 100 people, and then came back 6 months later and played to 200 people. And it just built and built and built that way.
How great of a performer did that make you?
Well, I had to figure it out pretty quick. I mean, when I first started performing, I couldn't look at the audience. I'm an introvert, and I never actually realized that till COVID. But I was kind of shy, and I wanted the music to speak for itself. I didn't feel like I had anything to say other than the music. So I didn't talk on stage. I didn't tell any stories. I didn't want to, I didn't talk about the genesis of the song. It was just like, hi, here's my music. And I would play. So, and people would yell stuff at me, and, I'd be, tell us a story or whatever. I'm like, oh, okay, I'm supposed to say something to you. Like, literally, I had no idea what I was doing.
Are there records, though, on Fumbling Towards Ecstasy? I mean, you just celebrated the 30th anniversary and you end up going on tour.
Yeah.
Any of that play into the inspiration of wanting to release this record?
That all happened after the record was done.
Really?
Yeah. Because we finished I finished most of the recording in October, and we went on tour then. So I tried to get as much of it done before that tour. But I think if there's a general overall vibe of, delving into this dark, challenging stuff, but also finding joy and staying optimistic and staying hopeful. I feel like that energy, if there's a sister album, I feel like Fumbling and Better Broken kind of have that similar energy.
By the way, there is something to that general tone that you just described that does follow your music, right? This idea that it's dark, yet it is hopeful.
Yeah.
Like, even Angel, like, I've listened to that song so many times just today because you love it and you can sing every lyric. But when you really listen to the lyrics, it is it's for somebody who is really broken and going through it, who feels hopeless and alone.
Yeah.
And there is this.
And who hasn't been there before?
100%.
Who hasn't been there before, and who's like desperately asking, I've, not religious, but I'm going to pray right now because I need some help here. I need some release. I need to get out of this feeling in my body and my head. Like, we've all been there. I think it's, so yes, it's desperate and desolate, but it's also this sort of, begging for something and asking for something better. So there's still that hope in it of like, please, somebody help me out here.
Does that song come from you just early morning at a piano?
Yeah, I remember really clearly. I was living in the Laurentians, which is just outside of Montreal, in a little tiny cabin. I had been on tour for probably 2.5 years. I was exhausted. I was mentally, physically completely drained. And of course, the record label's like, okay, where's the new record? We need you to get in the studio and write the next record. I'm like, I just need to regroup and get some of my soul back in place and get grounded again. So I thought, well, that worked with fumbling, so I'm going to go and try and, rekindle this feeling. And I remember being kind of stuck in my head, and I had bought some magazines, and I read this article in Rolling Stone about Jonathan Melvoin, the keyboard player for the Smashing Pumpkins, this story about him ODing in a hotel room, and just this flood of empathy and this feeling of connected to this story of like, I've never done heroin in my life, but I've been in that hotel room on tour just feeling so alone and lost, and how can I, starting to hate myself. And that song, like within 2 days, came out in its entirety. It was like, it just got channeled through me. And that's never happened to me before because, like I said, I'm not prolific. It usually takes months, if not years, to finish a song. And it was so quick. And I remember at the end of the process of the record, too, I put the record out, and I remember telling my friend, I think this album's shit, but Angel's really good. I just had no perspective.
Do you still,
I don't think that now, but in the moment, like we just worked the songs to death in my mind, and I had no perspective, and I was just like, I just don't even want to hear these songs anymore.
Can we talk about that song being beamed down to you?
Yeah.
It
was crazy. I don't know. It's just like this portal opened up, and that's a literal sense. It didn't, but I just felt like a conduit. This was something bigger than me, that I had opened up a door and witnessed this pain and recognized this pain that I feel in somebody else. And it's just this sense of connecting to something bigger than myself in the universe. And out it came.
Do you wonder where it came from?
I don't know. I think maybe it was just this perfect storm of recognition of that similar feeling. And I'm a musician. He was a musician. We're on tour, and it's a weird, lonely life that we lead as musicians on the road sometimes. And just that struggle. I was in that struggle, and reading that story was just like, oh my God, I can understand this pain.
That's a very real thing.
Yeah.
One of the biggest common threads that we get from, and I'll say timeless artists, timeless, is that their most timeless records are beamed down to them from something else, somebody else, another thing. And then that overlaps with this idea that people feel like ideas are passed from artist to artist. Like,
this collective consciousness thing.
Yes.
It's like they're out there waiting to be discovered, and whatever portal opens up.
Jonathan have a hand in this idea, this song? Like, do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah. Who knows? One of the coolest things, tragic and beautiful and cool, is I met Wendy Melvoin a couple years ago, and I had not made the connection. I knew who she was, of course. I was at Brandy Carlisle's show with the Joni Jam thing at the Gorge, and she came up to me. She goes, "Hey, I just want to tell you, that song you wrote, that really helped me and my family." And I'm like, oh, okay. I've heard that story countless times from other people who said that song has really helped them through a tough time. She goes, "That was my brother you were writing about." And she teared up, and we were both start bawling. And I just, again, this other beautiful connection of just like, thank you for that song. It was a devastating time for us, and that made us feel better somehow. So thank you. And we're crying and hugging each other. It's just like, holy shit. So intense.
Music is wild.
Music is wild. It really is.
I mean,
it's so incredible.
That's really, to think about what that song has done in this world, really, like in terms of like songs that have like immeasurable, there's no way to fully grasp the good that song has done, the connectivity that song has brought people, the peace it's brought people, the reminder it's brought people, the money it's raised to save animals.
And there's that too. Yeah,
I mean,
it's had legs. Yeah, I mean, that's one of the coolest validations as an artist or as a human for that matter, to know that you've created something that has this lasting impact. It can go out in the world and actually
it's bigger than
help somebody.
With all due respect, it's bigger than you. Like
way bigger than me, but that song always was way bigger than me. It didn't come from me. It came through me, right? So it makes sense that was the song that so many people have connected with on a really visceral level.
How does the ASPCA get involved in the first place?
So I had a friend on the board of the BC SPCA, and they were having this discussion about fundraising and how they could maybe, leverage everybody's, assets, as it were. And my friend's like, well, I know Sarah McLachlan. We should ask her. She loves animals. Maybe she'll come do a PSA for us. And I was off the road, and I was sort of in between things. And she came and asked me. I said, sure, I'll do that. What do you need from me? And she said, oh, just come to the studio for a couple hours. We'll record this thing. And can we use your song too? And I'm like, well, sure, that makes sense. That'll work. And we did it. And I don't think any of us had any idea the alchemy of that and how successful it would be. I think it raised $30 million in like the first year or something like that. Insane. It's
been going on. It still airs today.
I know. May I say that at one point, and let me finish the story, there was actually a cease and desist letter written to them because obviously it's a song that I love. Everybody wants to hear it. I do a number of charity concerts for various causes. And I was doing this food bank concert in New York City to raise money for the food bank. And they said, with respect, can you please not play Angel? Because it's so synonymous with the SPCA. We don't want brand confusion. I'm like, oh no. This is my song. And this is a song that everybody wants to hear. And I just thought at that moment, like, okay, you know what? I think it's time to maybe move on and take that commercial down and, let me reclaim it. And it, to this day, as you said, it's still everywhere because it's franchised, right? So trying to get
it's so hard.
Everybody to take that thing off. And I get that it's worked so well and it raises so much money. Of course, they don't want to take it down. And of course, it's created a ton of memes and I've got to take the piss out of it on multiple occasions, which brings me much joy as well. So,
do you get royalties from it?
Oh, hell no. From the ASPCA, the commercial?
You donated the song.
Oh, I donated all of it, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I always do. I mean, I've donated my songs to all sorts of things.
You're amazing.
Well, it's easy to do.
Yes, but like you said, it's aired, a trillion times over. It's raised, that's crazy.
Yeah, well, one could argue, being devil's advocate, it's also raised a lot of awareness.
I would say that too.
Of me as an artist.
Changes
and
your
has
life.
Probably garnered me some new fans. I remember being at Target like 1 o'clock in the morning on the road and, these two little old ladies were in there shopping and I couldn't sleep. We were on the tour bus. So I went in there. It's like, 24-hour Target, which is very exciting. And
only in America?
Yeah, 24-hour Target. And I went in there and these two little old ladies were just like, you're that girl on the commercial with the animals. I'm like, yep, that's me.
You were talking about love before and how your daughter's really changed the way you feel love, right? Like really defined and taught you what love is and could be.
Yeah.
When you were writing from a place of love previous, where were you writing from? Like, I even think about really one of my favorite songs of all time is from Toy Story 2. I've been walking around all day.
Yeah.
It's so good.
Isn't that just gut-wrenching?
Some people call it the saddest song in film of all time.
Yeah. I have a funny story about that. So I assume Randy Newman's people sent the song to my manager and he put me aside. He goes, so I've got this song. I don't know. I don't get it, but they want you to put it in a film. So you should listen to it. And I remember sitting in Terry's office sobbing, listening to this. It was like reminiscent of the first time I heard Kermit singing It's Not Easy Being Green. I'm like, oh my God, I have
Real.
to do this song. It's just so.
You didn't write it.
I didn't write it. Randy Newman wrote that.
But I gotta say, like, it is so in your vibe and in your flow and in
Well,
your.
I think that's why he asked me to do it.
Perfect.
Yeah, and I mean, Randy's got that gift. Like, I mean, it's so quintessential Randy, but the melody is like just built for my voice.
Really? That's crazy.
Yeah.
It's really it's a very powerful record.
Oh, it's gutting. Yeah. Wow, did that ever work? I mean, I remember watching it in the theater, just like ugly crying.
To cry?
And my daughter looking at me like, what is wrong with you? You're embarrassing me, Mom.
But when you were writing about love previous to like your daughters, like where were you writing, like where were you pulling love from?
Oh, mostly romantic love. And, being spurned, being, love gone wrong. I was in lots of, short-term shitty relationships. Had to work out a lot of my issues with my mother in my relationships before I got to something that kind of was resembling healthy. So yeah, lots of bad choices. It's good fodder for songwriting.
Truly.
Yeah.
Wow. By the way, you can listen to all of Sarah McLachlan's music, obviously. It's waiting for you. Amazon Music, link below. We got to talk about Lilith Fair.
Yeah.
Yeah, can you please explain to the class, all of us, just give us like a piece, like an education in music history and tell us exactly what this festival was and really should be again, in my humble opinion. But you did you did a lot of dates. It's a lot of work.
Yeah, it was 3 years. It was 3 summers, 1997 to 1999. Wow. Yeah.
Whoa.
I look great, don't I? Yeah, so in the mid-90s, I had done a lot of touring, but summer was coming up, and I was like, I want to do some shows, but I don't want to have all the responsibility on my shoulders. Let's get some women to open up for me. And I had women open up in the past, but my manager and I started talking, and we're like, festivals are really a big thing now. And we looked out at all the other music festivals, and they were completely male-dominated, yet all these women were like, adult alternative was a massive thing, and in radio, and all these women were having huge success, yet there was no representation in the summer festival market for them. So I was like, well, why don't we just do something on our own? Let's just start something. And the few promoters that I had relationships with were like, oh, we can do this. But by and large, I was told, no, you can't do that. You cannot put 2 women on the same bill. People won't come. And I said, well, honey, I've been doing that for years already, and it's been working out just fine. And of course, when anybody says you can't do something to me, it just puts a fire under my butt to prove them wrong. And I had also been dealing with the similar kind of energy at radio, where I'd go in and they say, well, we love your song, but we can't add you this week because we added Tracy Chapman, or we added Tori Amos, or we added Jewel, or whoever. I'm like, well, we're all very different. I notice you're playing Soundgarden and Pearl Jam and Nirvana and all these guy bands with, that sound not dissimilar to each other, but why is there not room for us in that same way? So I started really recognizing the inequality to it. And again, when people said we couldn't do it, it was like, oh, no, we're going to do it. And we did 4 shows in 1996 with the promoters that we had relationships with. We were playing to 15,000 people, sold out arenas or out amphitheaters, and went, oh yeah, we need to do this full on. Like, that was our test run. And then let's build this. And the next summer we went out in 1997, and it was like the biggest tour out there. And it was so awesome for me to build a community of women artists in an environment where we were not in competition with each other. Because that's what we were supposed to be. We're all fighting for a very small slice of the pie. So we never got the chance to really meet each other or talk, because it's a lonely, weird job that we have. And you're all often on the road with a bunch of guys who are in your band and your crew. So to create that opportunity for all of us to come together and talk about the weird job we have and connect and make music together, that was massive for us, exciting and joyful for us. and then to show that to the world at large who, oh, music fans, turns out they actually like a wealth of different kinds of music. That's not surprising to any of us in this room, I'm sure. But, it was, oh, we haven't done this before. So everybody was freaked out about it. But
It was taboo.
it was completely taboo. And we blew that notion out of the water and had a grand time doing it. I mean, I'm not going to say it was easy. It was an incredible amount of work. I mean, sometimes there was 11 artists every night. And sometimes we would have, like sometimes people would come for a day. They'd come for a week. They'd come for 3 weeks. There's a couple anchors, like Sheryl Crow was out for almost the entire tour with us. But, it was a lot to put together and to try and create a unique and diverse bill every night. Honestly, most of that fell on my agent's shoulders too. He was the one that had to call the managers, and they were like, "You're doing what?" No, thank you. So the fact that we got out there that first year and had really great shows was amazing.
By the way, and you make music history in many different ways. I mean, it was one of Missy Elliott's first ever live performances,
It was her
right?
first live performance.
That's crazy.
Yeah. I'll never forget it. She was about 45 minutes late because her bus broke down. And, we're running a tight ship here. Our deadline is 11 o'clock because union calls come in. It's $5,000 a minute to go overtime. So you're like, well, we need to go on. And I don't really want to cut my set super short. But anyway, she got in the last minute and she put on that big black garbage bag suit and got out there. And it's like just 15 minutes of this amazing show. We were all so blown away. And yeah. But this was the stuff that went on every day, all day. There was just fires constantly to put out and try and navigate. Someone, like I said, the bus broke down. Someone's not showing up. I had some musicians who, went AWOL, went on a bender, and 5 o'clock sound check time. You're like, okay, where's my musician?
That's wild.
They showed up, but yeah.
I mean, this vision I have of you, like line producing, running the house, also performing,
I was kind of like Julie, the cruise director. You're probably too young for that reference, but
I have some comprehension.
yeah,
of
the Love
concepts.
Boat. It was a big show in the 80s. And so I was kind of that, the mascot. I was going around greeting everybody. Just as I said, I was sort of involved in all the day-to-day decision-making too. So I was wearing a couple different hats all the time.
How valuable.
I felt a little bit frantic for sure, but
You learn so much.
oh, it was like trial by fire. I mean, I was also in front of the firing squad every day in the press conferences because, I got to live my career very quietly up to that point without any sort of, I wasn't trying to be overtly political or anything. I was just making my music and having my own success in that little thing. And this catapulted me into a completely different realm as far as, the press and media attention and the demand to justify and explain what we were trying to do. And every day I was besieged with questions and certainly this kind of seething resentment of you're either not feminist or you're too feminist enough. You're not this, you're not that. Why aren't you doing this? How can you not be saying this? Why do you hate men? That was actually one of the comments I got more every single day. So why do you hate men?
This is crazy.
And I was like, what in the hell does celebrating women and women's music have to do with hating men? But, again, I was just kind of so shocked and overwhelmed by the question. It seemed so asinine that I didn't really have a good response right off the bat. I was just like, well, just come and see the show and you'll figure it out.
But this idea that you had to do press conferences, imagine Coachella has to do a press conference instead of just releasing a statement via a post on X or Instagram.
Well, one of the cool things, the juxtaposition of that unpleasantness was also the end of every press conference. We donated a ton of money to charity, and every show, $1 of every ticket sale went to a local women's shelter. And so I got to be the person who gave the local shelter, this sometimes up to $30,000 check. And we chose underdogs. We chose people that no one was donating to, that were really grassroots organizations. We did a ton of work beforehand to research and find the best organizations. So to know that not only were we there putting on a great show for everybody and this really great energy, this safe space for everybody to show up and be however they want to be and enjoy this musical experience, we were leaving this lasting legacy as well. And I got to be the lucky person to give that check and to feel that of like, oh my God, look what we get to do. Look what the power of all of us together can create.
Did Sheryl Crow have to ask you for permission to bring Prince on stage?
Oh no, there was no need to ask for permission. It was like, hey, Prince wants to come. I'm like, oh, hell yes. He was a side guy. He was coming in to support us and support Sheryl. So for me, it was like, it's Prince.
Yeah.
Of course he's welcome.
And I assume this is all why it's being put into a documentary.
Well, it's been, almost 25 years. And I think it's time. One of the cool things about social media is this resurgence of this information and all this young generation being reminded of this, and how it's like, every day I hear it's like, oh my God, this is so relevant today. We need something like this today. And of course, I then get asked the question, are you going to do it again? And I think in order for it to be successful, it would have to be helmed by a young artist of today, and it would have to be different. And I don't know how that different would be, but I'm 57 years old. I only have so much energy, and I already did it. So something new needs to be created. And I will say, artists are doing it. Taylor Swift always has women opening up for her. Brandi Carlile is, putting on these huge things. So it's happening all over the place. But I think it's really cool, in particular now with, this constant erosion of women's rights, to have a reminder that this is what we did. I think we get used to the way things are. And I think we were all completely in shock when Roe v. Wade was overturned. We never thought that was possible. And now we see, daily and quietly and sometimes loudly things being stripped away. And we need reminders that we all, if we as women stand together, we can change things.
Oh, yeah. And by the way, music has a vital, vital, vital role in bringing about
change.
Actual change, yeah?
Yeah. Well, I think music is one of the only things we have left where it's like this great leveler.
Real.
It's about an emotional connection, which is really basic and visceral, and it has nothing to do with race or politics or gender. It's about a feeling, about being connected to something bigger than yourselves. Like, I never went to church. I'm not a religious person, but I consider myself somewhat spiritual. And for me, music is like my church. It's the thing that I go to feel connected, to feel love, to feel a sense of belonging, to feel like I'm part of something bigger than myself. And to share that with other people, especially like live, because that's really, for me, where music comes alive and is really powerful, because you're connecting with all these people right here, right now, in real time, and you're all feeling something. You all may be feeling very different things. It may be conjuring up different emotions, different stories for you, but there's this really beautiful, visceral connectedness when you're all kind of in it together, and you walk out of I remember walking out of the arena singing a U2 song. Like, we were all singing the same song, and it's just for a moment, we were all kind of united.
But that has power.
It has immense power.
That's like
we
energy
need that.
used for movement.
Desperately need that. We need this sense of community. We need this sense of being part of something bigger than ourselves that is a movement towards something positive. That's the same impetus and reason that I started my music schools. It's that same thing, to create a safe space for kids to come and make music together, to be vulnerable and open with their peers, to discover who they are, and using music as that vehicle in a safe space
By the way,
is really powerful.
You opened those schools in 2001, and now it's just grown, right?
Yeah, 24, we're in our 24th year. Yeah, we have, I think we started with less than 200 kids in a pilot project. We now have over 1,200 students a year across 3 cities. It's completely free. It's always been free. It always will be. And it's just, for me, an immense source of pride and love and joy. Again, I can be having the crappiest day, and I'll go in there and I'll see kids connecting and smiling and laughing and making music together, and you just cannot help but be lifted, and it just fills your heart. It's like, I get to be part of this. I was part of creating this. Lilith was part of creating this, because I took all the money I made and put it into the foundation that started the school. So yeah, it's beautiful. I
just got to say, like the government, anybody there, this is why you invest in the arts. This is why Canada chooses to invest in the arts and give artists a shot, because they can do great things, and it is a cyclical thing. where you give back to the place that gave you so much.
And I mean, any of us can do that, and it
Jeez.
doesn't have to be on grand scale. It's like we all have our unique platforms, whether it's in our community, in our church, in our school, as teachers, as educators, or as parents. We have the ability to lift each other up and to use whatever platform we have to move the dial forward and to continue to create positive social change.
You mentioned One in a Long Line early on. Why was that the song for your daughters to sing on? And what was it like being in the studio with them, like watching them record?
Well, to answer the first half of your question, I think it was important for me to have them on there because it is about the hard work and challenges that our mothers and mothers before them faced and dealt with to come to a place where, we have all these things we kind of take for granted as women now, all our, so, and the fact that those are now being taken away. Now for me was the time to stand up and go, I have daughters. My child rearing years are long over. A lot of these things don't apply to me, but they most certainly apply to my daughters, and they apply to all the other young women out there who deserve to have autonomy over their own bodies at the very least. And the fact that those rights are being stripped away, and who knows what else, because things are just going crazy these days, and things are happening at a breakneck pace that we can't even imagine. I felt it was really important for them to have an opportunity to have a voice in this, because they are the next generation. And as a mother, again, for me, it was really important to continually instill in them a sense of their own value and their autonomy over their bodies. The second half of that question is, my eldest was happy to sing in front of me, and we did this on an iPhone in her bedroom.
Really?
Yeah, she's 23, and she earnestly and open-heartedly sang right in front of me, and it was the most beautiful thing because neither of my girls sing. They sing, but they don't sing out loud. Maybe because mom's a singer, they just don't do it. So I had never heard her voice.
Oh, that's special.
And I recorded on my iPhone. I was just, trying not to leak while this was happening. And then my youngest daughter, who was 18, when I said, it's time, we're mixing and I need to have this vocal, I said, let's go do it. She goes, are you serious? Oh God, you really want me to do this? And she kind of pushed back. I said, oh no, you promised me you'd do this. You have to do this. So she said, I'm going in the studio. So she went down to my studio. She goes, you can't come. I'm going to do it by myself. And I was like, okay, do you know how to, Mom, I've got this. I know how to record on voice memo. So she came back 15 minutes later and she's like, don't play it in front of me. I don't want to hear it. I said, did you do it like 5 or 6 times? Yes, I did. Oh my God, Mom. And then I went in the bathroom and put my headphones on again, just, trying not to leak this beautiful, pristine little voice. And I wish, in hindsight, I'd gotten them to sing harmonies, but I felt like it was a real win to even get them to sing the lead with me because I kind of didn't want to push it too much. But because they're my daughters, our voices are so similar in some ways that it was really hard to add them in and to get them to, find a place to put them where you could hear them succinctly above and around me. So it's more like we're like this amalgam of like the three of us. It's like this one voice that has these sort of, little colors and flowers that come out. And I don't know how to describe it anything other than that. But so they're kind of actually hard to hear, but I can hear them and I can pick them out. And I love that.
You got to listen to Better Broken. It's waiting for you on Amazon Music. There's a link below. Is this a breakup album to a certain point?
It is for me, a story of reclamation. I went through divorce 16 years ago. Then I had a disastrous, second sort of relatively long relationship that I lasted way too long and I stayed way too long and I lost so much of myself in the process. And so coming out of that and rebuilding my sense of, who am I? How do I want to show up in the world? How do I want to show up for my daughters? Like, I think that was one of the things that really just hit me the hardest when I was staying in this unhealthy situation. I'm like, what am I teaching my girls? Like, this is terrible. I'm showing them that it's okay to not be treated with respect and dignity and not be valued. And when I finally made that connection, I was like, okay, I'm done. But it took me a long time to get to that place, and then a long time to sort of climb out from underneath that. So yeah, it's not really a breakup album. It's more about that happened. And for me, it's about looking forward and how do I rebuild? How do I rebuild myself? How do I want to show up in the world? How do I want to show up for my girls? And, I think that coming into a place of being really sound and solid and really liking myself for the first time and feeling like I deserve this happiness. I deserve to feel successful. Because I had so much imposter syndrome and so much like this sort of like kind of self-loathing most of my young adult life. Of like, you're a fraud and nobody wants to hear from you. I mean, these are the things I had to fight through what my mother instilled in me.
Even with the world giving you accolades and selling tens of millions of records.
Yeah, it didn't matter, which I suppose in some ways is healthy, because my validation, my sense of self-worth was never attached to my fame or that success. My validation and sense of success was attached to my own self-worth of, can I look at myself in the mirror at the end of the day and feel proud of what I've done and who I am and how I've showed up for the people that I love, and have I been purposeful? Have I done something meaningful that's helped the world? And, I would say, yes, I have. And I have a lot of ownership of that feeling now, but it's taken me these many years to get to a place where I'm solid in that. And, where I would get up on stage and receive an honor, and I'd just be like, oh my God, why am I here? I can't believe they're giving me this. It's like, don't they know what a loser I am?
Do you remember the moment you actually felt successful?
Well, I would say I've felt successful a lot of the time in a lot of experiences, but then there'd always be this nagging insecurity that would come into the picture in the quiet moments, of like,
Totally.
Yeah. And this is my mother, like, don't go thinking you're anything special. Don't go thinking that, this is going to last. The rug can be pulled out from you at any moment. So don't take any of this for granted. Again, that I think is a little bit healthy.
Yeah, fuck yeah.
That part's healthy, but the self-loathing around that was not healthy. So it's just, trying to parcel that out and go, no, you actually, it's okay. You deserve to be standing here. You deserve to have a voice. And it turns out people actually do want to hear what you have to say. And I mean, that's always been the thing too, of like, I think why I've been so hesitant to talk about songs or to talk about the way I feel about things, because I labor intensively over my lyrics to succinctly say what I feel is the most authentic thing. And words don't naturally come easily to me. Like lyrics are very difficult for me. I'm a slow processor, right? So in the moment, it's challenging for me sometimes I've never been one to come up with some, snippy response to something. I usually sit in dumb shock when someone insults me. I'm like,
I'll get back to you.
Can I get back to you? I have no idea how to react.
But you say the lyric, but in the moment you have to process, but do the lyrics come easy once you process? Like Wilderness, for example, but you kissed me and walked away into the wilderness. You came back, you begged me. I bought what you sold. I gave my forgiveness. I set the bar low because all along you had another life somewhere with somebody other than me. I mean,
ouch.
It's the ultimate betrayal.
Ouch is right.
Yeah, there it is. I don't really need to explain that. It's pretty self-explanatory. Yeah, I mean, that song.
Context and everything. It's
there. Like I think I've, back to like lyrics and songwriting, like I would always, I would often try and obfuscate if there was, a particular person I was talking about. I'd try and, think about a metaphor or a parallel universe to discuss this thing, so it wasn't quite as obvious. So people say you're being so vulnerable. I'm like, yeah, but do you really know what this is about? It's kind of, I made it kind of general. And Wilderness, I had written probably 6 or 7 songs about this long breakup that had happened. And I needed to do that to process. And I'm grateful to have that vehicle. It's super cathartic to be able to write about this stuff, to find a place to put it, and then kind of put them to bed. And when I was working at first with Tony and Will, and playing them all these songs, as I heard them, I realized, A, they're not that good, and B, they're a story that I am no longer interested in telling or giving any energy to. And Wilderness was the one that I felt, and Tony as well, felt was the strongest. And it was probably the most storytelling song I've ever had, where I'm basically like, yeah, here's how it unfolded. And is extremely, vulnerable and sad. And that's where I was when I wrote it. And that was a quick song, now that I think about it. That was one of the other really quick songs to write, because I was in it, but I was just enough on the outside of it where I had a little bit of perspective, where that was when I was done, but looking back and you're, what in the world was I doing? Why did I stay so long? Why did I allow myself to sit in this place of being used? And I mean, this person was, a sociopath and just incredibly charismatic and charming too, and was a very good liar, right? And when you want to believe this person,
you will.
Yeah. I mean,
you find every reason to.
You do. And denial is very, very powerful. I was, I look back and think, I'm just shocked at myself that I allowed that to happen. Friends would tell me this is what's going on. And I'd be like, no, it's not. You don't know what you're talking about. I'm like, I saw them together. No, you didn't. It must have been someone else. Like, this is the, I say this with.
No, delusional for love.
It was just shocking. Yeah. And it wasn't even good. There was a brief moment at the beginning where it was, and it was like, I want that back. Oh, no. If I just dig my heels in, if I love hard enough, and all those stupid things,
totally.
Right? With the wounded bird, you're like, oh, I can change him. I can make this work. And it had nothing to do with me. I mean, there's another revelation. Had nothing to do with me at all. I was just a byproduct, an unpleasant thing that happened in this thing that, it was just, yeah.
Do you care about this person hearing these songs?
Oh, I have a kind of a quiet glee. That this, because I didn't leave the house for like a year after this because I was so embarrassed, because everybody knew. Everybody in my community knew that this was happening. No one told me.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah. And so I was, my pride was so wounded, and I felt so much shame. Like, I'm this strong, successful feminist, and I let this happen to me. So I was just like, I was a mess for so long. So you can imagine, 7 years later, I listen to these songs, I'm like, oh yeah, no, I'm done with that. I don't want to give it any energy. But this song in particular was, I think, important because it tells the story very truthfully and honestly. And I'm in such a different place now that it's okay for me. I don't mind revealing this part of myself that I was so shameful about for so long.
Are there any other songs like from your early catalog that have taken on new meaning to you now when you perform them? I mean, you did a whole tour where you performed 30-year-old records. Like Possession?
Nah, Possession to this day kind of it feels the same. Like it's got the same energy.
Chilling.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry. I thought that would have at least taken on. I mean,
no, let me rephrase that. It's the feeling around it has softened greatly, and quite frankly, it did very quickly. Like again, I say I write as a form of catharsis. I write. It's therapy for me, and it's a way to find a place to put stuff that I'm trying to manage.
So you're
managing
trying to
deal with
a stalker.
I was.
Yeah.
I had been doing during that time. Yes.
You had a couple, actually.
I had a couple, and let me say, and I'm sure you know this too. As soon as you put your face out there in public, there are people who will want to, conjure up unnatural and strange reactions. Oh. There's a lot of lost souls out there who, need to connect in ways that are clearly unhealthy for us, because we're just doing our jobs. We're doing something that we love. We're very lucky to be in this position of privilege, but we're public figures, and people get attached. I'm a musician. I sing really vulnerable, emotional music.
People feel understood.
People feel understood, and people feel that connection. And there's that exists in a healthy realm, and then there's the ones that exist in the where it's like, I've been told by God that we need to get married, and I'm coming for you, and you need to come with me now.
It's really, but it is terrifying.
Shocking.
And I have friends who deal with it today.
Yeah.
More resources around to deal with it today.
Yeah.
Than back then.
Yeah.
You couldn't track people the same way you can track people today. I'm assuming you didn't have armed security around you.
No, I remember one person calling me, somehow getting my phone number and calling me saying, I've seen you in the same place for 3 days in a row now. So please meet me at 3:30 at the Starbucks on so-and-so street and I'm like, oh my God, this person's been in there every day. It was right down the street from my house where I'd go get coffee. And so, we phoned the police and they met the person at 3:30. But that was a happy ending, right? It was a stern chat, and it was like, okay, I'm so sorry, I won't do that again. And it kind of, but something like the Possession song, it went really dark.
It is tragic.
Yeah, and it's tragic. I mean, this gentleman ended up committing suicide. And I remember being on the road and being told that, and I didn't know how to feel. On one hand, there was this flood of relief, and then there was this guilt too of like, should I have done something different? Should I have reached out to him? But I was told not to. I was told to stay away, and yeah,
you're an empath.
The double-edged sword of of music,
and having deep empathy, which is required to be an artist.
Yeah, well, it's we all have a responsibility as humans. Whatever we put out there in the world, there's an equal and opposite reaction. And, you hope that it's positive, but things are not always going to be received in that way. Or, people are going to create their own stories around things that you've done and said. And what I had to learn is I'm not responsible for that. I'm responsible for what I continue to do. I feel like I did everything as right as I could. There was definitely no encouragement. And this was something that, it was his story and it was his cross to bear. I remember he had, the internet was young, and he posted this letter of intent because he had he'd phoning my manager day in, day night. Somehow he had his number and said, we have to be together. You're keeping us apart. And then he said, well, I'm going to sue you, because then I'll have my day in court and you'll have to be there in court, and then you'll see me and you'll understand. And, oh gosh, I'm losing my train of thought, and he posted the letter of intent on the internet, and then my fans kind of tore him apart. They came to my defense. I didn't say a thing, as you don't, but, so I think that was the beginning of it for him, where it's like he didn't get any validation. He didn't, in the end, get what he wanted. And obviously, he was a really troubled soul.
Is it a hard song to perform?
No, and I think because, I don't mean to sound unsympathetic, but I think it's like I have a degree of objectivity for all my songs, where it's like I'm not in that moment of grief or panic or fear or sadness or even, what I'm talking about, the joy of the moment or whatever. There's this sort of sense of I've been there, I've experienced it, I wrote about it, I feel really good about this. And it's just like this beautiful release of energy. It's like, it's like freedom. When I sing, I'm not even thinking about the lyrics per se. Like, I'm thinking about the feeling that it's evoking in me in that moment, which is this kind of beautiful release and freedom.
You got to listen to the music. Listen to the entire catalog. I'm sure you listened to it, but you should listen to it again. It's all on Amazon Music. Plus, there's a whole new album there for you. Better Broken. Go, go, go. You're awesome.
Thank you.
Yeah, like you're exceptional. Like you're like, God, you're amazing. Thanks for hanging.
Very sweet. Thank you.
No, I'm not bullshitting, right? She's
No.
awesome. This is, yeah, sick. Thanks for hanging out today.
My pleasure.
You didn't need to
Thanks
do
for
this.
having me.
Like you're,
Yeah, you did. You needed to come see us.
yeah, you needed to.
Yeah,
No,
you
it's just,
did.
no, you
Well,
really didn't. Need
I
to
have
do
very
it.
much enjoyed myself too. Thank you.